to our lunch and learn. Welcome to our lunch and learn about how to have difficult conversations specifically around race. And I do want to say quickly that we're really glad that you're all here. And this is going to be a discussion about Sheila and my personal experience. So I just wanted to preface that and what we've learned throughout this whole process, throughout our learning process. Sheila?
Yes. So why are these conversations so challenging for us, right, as white people? And there are some challenges and obstacles that maybe might resonate with you as well. That certainly resonated with me and Jackie. Jackie, are we going to do a poll, or do I go through? Sorry,
why don't we have the poll up, and then we can talk through while people are polling.
All right, so we got a poll for you guys. So if you could take a moment to look at why are these conversations so difficult for us as white people. And I'm looking at the responses as they come in. Jackie, can they choose more than one, or do they have to?
I think they can choose only one.
Oh,
but there obviously may be more.
There might be more.
I chose multiple.
Oh, good.
Yes, good. All right. Looks like some people are still reading through, getting some responses in. Okay. Right. So I'll continue talking where you guys are filling it out, right? So I would imagine that at least one or maybe multiple of these might resonate with some of you, right? So one of the reasons that these conversations, one of the challenges can be having conversations around race is that the feeling that who am I to be talking about racism as a white woman, as a white person, right? There can be fear related around that, right? Fear of being judged or evaluated negatively in some way, right? Having the feeling that I need to be perfect, right? What's it called? The multicultural perfectionism, right? That we need to come to terms with ourselves that we are actually imperfect and that this is a learning process. But again, we do have this fear that we have to be perfect. We have to do it right. Otherwise we can't do it at all. This all or nothing thinking. Another one that's common is, right, I have a feeling that I'm not as far along as I should be in this process. This is a developmental process for all of us. And we're going to start at all different places. And again, as Jackie said, she and I are going to share our journey, our learning journey through this. And again, I would encourage you to be thinking about your own learning journey as we go through this, because we're all going to have different histories, different life experiences. And, I'd encourage you to reflect on that. And then the last one, right, I have a feeling that I don't want to hurt people's feelings, right? That, right, we're a kind and compassionate, loving group here at Regis, and sometimes we really might feel like we might hurt somebody's feelings if we bring this topic up and don't handle it very well. So those are some of the challenges and obstacles that we as white professors, white staff members, right, white administrators might face when we think about having difficult conversations about race.
Right. And Sheila took these. I'm going to end the poll now. Sheila took these from a really great article called White Professors Teaching About Racism, Challenges and Rewards. So if you want to read that, I think it's in our resource section. So I think that's a nice one to read.
Yes, thank you, Jackie.
Welcome. Okay, so I think we wanted to start off to talk about why this is important to us as individuals. We started the faculty learning community because I think it's important for us to start this discussion, if it's not already started, in our departments, in our classrooms, college-wide, within our friend groups. We also felt that it was important for us to challenge the notion that we as white women can't start this discussion, right? We shouldn't be leaving the onus on those individuals that are directly affected by these conversations. So we should, take charge and start learning about it ourselves so that we can share our experience and hopefully help other people know that they can start their experience as well. With this lunch and learn, we're hoping to provide a safe space for faculty and staff to learn and ask questions. We will not know all the answers. We're still learning with you, but it's a place, that we, can come together to move forward as a group. These lunch and learns also are a nice place to provide safe space to practice these difficult skills, right? So I know one of the biggest things that we talked in our learning community is that this is a hard skill to do in the moment, right? Because feelings are going to be high, you're going to be nervous, you don't want to say the wrong thing. But if you have a space where you can practice having these discussions and get feedback outside of the context, I think in the moment, it might be a lot easier to have those conversations. These lunch and learns and having these places also provides us a place to reflect on our own equity mindedness and that of the college. And so finally, we really wanted to challenge the current practices at Regis with some real life examples at the end of our discussion. So that's kind of why we came to this and why it is important for us.
All right, so in the spring of 2022, Audrey and Erica had sent out a request to, I think it was it just faculty, Audrey, or was it staff as well? I think it was just
faculty.
Yeah, just faculty, right? So to join this faculty learning community, and the faculty learning community focused on building an equity-minded campus. And so Jackie and I wanted to get a shout out to our facilitators, Audrey Grace and Erica Hollis, for facilitating this faculty learning community. And to also give a shout out to these are the members of our learning community. And Jackie and I felt really lucky to be able to work with these individuals in our groups for the faculty learning community. And also, you know, maybe Erica, I thought I saw Erica's here, but I know that she had put, it was either in the faculty meeting or one of the workshops, a link to possible future faculty learning communities. So I don't know if you're here, Erica. If you want to post that in the chat again, I would highly encourage you guys. I did click on the link and there was a couple of things that really interested me in there. So if you haven't done that, I would encourage you to do it. And again, just really wanted to say thank you to our wonderful learning community, which really helped deepen our experience for me and Jackie.
Yeah, it was really lovely. Okay, so we want to start our discussion talking about who we are and our position in relation to this discussion. So this is my story. The picture on the right depicts my backyard growing up. So I grew up in the very northernmost tip of northern New York. It's very beautiful. I was raised in a lower middle socioeconomic status family in a really small town with no racial diversity. There was one family that was not white in my entire town. And growing up, I think that really affected me, right? And how I was brought up and how I came to talk about race. So I am white, I am cisgender, I am married, I have a kid. And so that's kind of my position and when I'm coming into this. And this is really important because my position is going to be different from someone else's position. So it's important to reflect on where you're coming from prior to having discussions. So I came into this discussion, I think, like many white people in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd. I previously had about race as an issue. You know, I was brought up to in the notion of color blindness. Like my family said, oh, we don't see color. Everyone, you know, is the same. And when this murder happened, it really started helping me think differently, right? Think that maybe there is a difference because there is one. And then when I started having these discussions, I started reading books like How to Be an Anti-Racist through the I think the Ministry of Service had that book club over that summer. I realized that in that moment, while I was reading that book and doing this, that I was really doing a disservice to my students. I have students of color, and I wasn't recognizing that there may be a difference. I wasn't recognizing that race may be impactful for them because it wasn't for me, right? In the majority, in the white majority. And then I realized that sadly, I was also doing my friends of color a disservice, that I, you know, wasn't recognizing their experience and wasn't standing up for them in situations where someone may made a joke that was potentially racist or, you know, they were biased. And so that's kind of where I came to this discussion and why I thought it was so important to join this specific learning community, because I am still learning. And I came from a place of knowing almost nothing. I can do it too. So that's kind of where I came from and why I wanted to share my experience.
Thank you, Jackie. So I also had a very similar picture to Jackie, because I love going up to the Adirondacks every summer and hiking, and I almost put it up, but I'm more of a quote person than a picture person. So so a little bit about me, right? You can see up here that this idea of a self-assessment, right? Jackie and I, as part of the faculty learning community, did a lot of self-assessment through that process. And again, I'm going to tell you my perspective that I bring to the conversation, right? In this idea of considering positionality. And I would encourage you, when we're talking, right, to think about your own history, to think about your own position in the world and how that affects how you view the world. So similar to Jackie, right? I'm a cisgender married woman of 3 kids. I was born and raised in Alaska to a middle-class Catholic family. And my dad finished school in the 9th grade, and my mom finished, she did graduate from high school. And I was actually reflecting on this last night when I was looking at this. I have written down, you know, my dad finished his schooling in the 9th grade. That's not exactly how it went, right? He had to leave school so he could help support his family. So again, thinking about language and how we use language and defining who we are. But so that's, you know, these are some of the characteristics and experiences that shape who I am in the world. And again, I would encourage you to do the same. What are your characteristics and experiences and environments that have influenced your perspective and your worldview? And if you referred to as positionality. So I'm going to give you 2 definitions. One is from the American Psychological Association on positionality. So that positionality refers to one's own position or place in relation to race, ethnicity, and other statuses, and how our identities relate to the systems of privilege and oppression that shape our psychological experiences, relationships, and access to resources. And then a much simpler one, which I like both of them, but the second one is how differences in social position and power shape our identities and access in society. So again, I would encourage you to think about your positionality as we go through this presentation. Well, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, or Jackie is, I can't remember which one, but this, one of the things I learned in my work is also considering, it's called SPP, this idea of what, you know, always reflecting on your supremacy, your power, and your privilege as a white person. When you're having a difficult conversation, what is my SPP? What is my supremacy, my power, my privilege? And then what is the other person's in this conversation, right? What is their, what's their level of supremacy, power, and privilege? Trying to think. Oh, so I think we're having some issues, some technical issues. So I do have some quotes on here, right? Similar to Jackie, right? My 2016, the election happened. Maybe you guys had a similar experience. I had a lot of students of color who were scared and crying after Trump was elected and what was going to happen to them potentially, or their families. And then the white students were not, some of them were quite empathic, I shouldn't say that, but they were a little bit like, what's the big deal, right? So, and I didn't really have the language to talk to my students. I don't think I handled that very well in 2016. So that was kind of my first one real realization within the classroom, like, oh boy, I got to think about how I can talk about race in my classroom with my students. This is really important work. And of course, with the murder of George Floyd, that just accelerated my desire to learn and be committed as much as possible. So that fall, in the fall 2020, I became a PI mentor. I'm going to give a shout out to that program. If anybody is interested, right, reach out. I think it's to Audrey, right?
Yes.
It's a fantastic program. So this will be my 3rd year mentoring a student. And it's just a wonderful program. So I did that. I just started reading, listening to podcasts, watching videos, doing a lot of self-assessment and engaging with the material. And you'll see I have a couple quotes up here. Right. And this is the first, well, the quote down below, right? Choose not to be one of the silent good people. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for the good people to do nothing. And I'm afraid sometimes that's what I do, right? I'm a good person, but I don't necessarily stand up and do the right thing, right? I can be kind of silent and quiet. And even doing this lunch and learn is a big, I don't do this. I can be with my students, but being in this type of forum and talking to you guys in this way is uncomfortable for me, but I really felt like I have a responsibility to push my edges. And so here I am today. And then the other quote by Brene Brown, right? I'm not here to be right. I'm here to get it right. I got to practice at this, and I will practice at this. And then the last quote I'll share is from Richard Powers, The Overstory, because Jackie and I are sharing our stories, and I'm a clinician as well. So I have a private practice. And I think that stories are so deeply important to who we are and how we are in the world. And if we're having, even thinking about this concept, I would like you guys to be thinking, about stories when we're doing this presentation, right? And in the Overstory, Richard Powers, the quote by him is, "The best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do that is a good story." And so I encourage you, when we think about having difficult conversations, really trying to know your own story and then really try to know the other person's story as well.
Thanks, Sheila. Okay, so based on our readings, listening in our communities, discussions surrounding this important topic, we want to provide some information for you across these 5 steps that we found. We kind of accumulated all of the materials that we got together, and we thought these were the 5 steps that would get you started in considering how you talk about race in your real life, be it in your personal life, in your classroom, or your professional life. We know that in our own experience, this is really uncomfortable sometimes. And I know that for myself and for Sheila, we have shied away or diverted from this topic during really crucial moments when we should have stood up and said something. So just like a show of reactions or hands, has anyone ever felt that way? Has anyone ever shied away from having an important racial topic when they couldn't? So if you had maybe little thumbs up in your reaction. So many of us have, right? So that's something to think we're not alone, right? And that when that experience. So, right, we can say that during these moments, if we would have talked about race, it would have positively influenced the relationships that we had with those that we should have been having those conversations with. So generally, our steps are going to include self-assessment, setting the stage, having the actual conversation, which you mean most of the things we're going to be doing are have before the conversation, which was surprising to us, doing some follow-ups. And then our final point is next steps for us as a college. So we're going to jump in.
All right, so self-assessment, right? What piggybacking on what Jackie just said, right? The first step really happens way before any conversation happens, right? And that is this idea of a self-assessment and know yourself, right? And so we were both surprised when we were doing the work, right? Like how much of the work focused on us as individuals, right? Who are we? What is our position? What are the characteristics and experiences that have shaped who we are and how we see the world? And to know that, right? And how that, for better and for worse, can shape how we have difficult conversations, right? Jackie and I, Audrey sent us journals, so we did journaling, right? And how helpful that was in our practice throughout the faculty learning community. One of the things we learned, and so again, I would encourage you guys to put this in the chat if you're able to think about this. But one of the questions we were asked to do the self-assessment. Oh, and the link is given down below. There's a link to the self-assessment on triggering events, navigating triggering events, that Audrey and Erica had sent to us in the FLC. And one of, so you had to figure out, do you fight when you're having difficult conversations? Do you flight? Do you run? Or do you freeze? And so Jackie is a fighter in the classroom, and I'm a freeze, right? I would just, like, I'm in 2016, they're talking about Trump, the students are crying, the white students are like, what's the problem? And I'm like, I don't know what to say. I froze, right? So I'd be curious if putting in the chat, do you think you're a fighter, a flighter, or a freezer? And Jackie and I, we're supposed to, it's a whole, so to be fair, this assessment, you have to answer a bunch of questions. And Jackie and I were both surprised, right, Jackie? I think you were surprised. I know I was surprised by mine, and I think maybe you were as well.
I thought that I was like, I don't do any of those things. I like handle classroom situations really well. And then after I said that, did the self-assessment, I will share a story of when I didn't handle, just last semester, a discussion in the classroom not well at all, and came to our community learning session just crying, just a ball of cries, just a ball of tears. And everyone's like, what's happening? And I'm just crying my eyes out. And so, yeah, so it was very surprising for us.
Yeah. right? So know yourself, know your triggers and how you tend to respond, know your positionality and personality, SPP, right? What's the potential impact of my SPP on this interaction? What's the potential impact of the other person's lack of SPP on this interaction, right? And how do I need to adapt my behavior in light of how I answer those two other questions? Know your self-care strategies, right? Mindfulness breathing can get you through some tough conversations sometimes, right? Taking a moment. Really, I have a support network, right? I have Becky, Heidi, and Helen and Jackie, right? In my department, I have my partner at home, right? So I know my support system and I know who I go to. An example I would use is, right, as part of my support network, last spring, I misgendered a student in class and I journaled about it in the FLC. And then Becky, who is we're colleagues in the psych department, and she was here that day, and so I debriefed with her, and she was really helpful in having me think about how I might handle that situation and go back in and address it with the student. And okay, I think that's it. Yeah. So right. So self-assessment. Know thyself. Right. Do the work. Do the work and reflect on who you are.
Yeah, and I think here really journaling and reflection are essential. I was like, I don't want to journal. I can't even journal in my real life. Like, I own a journal and it's sitting by my bed, but it's very hard to write in it, right? So I was like, how am I going to journal about this? But because it was part of the community, right? We did journal. We talked about our journaling, and I think that really opened up a lot for me personally about, my positionality and what I thought and my biases. So that was really good. So we would say that is essential. The second step, before you even have the conversation, we would strongly encourage, as well as the authors that we have taken this information from, is to set your stage. Know why you want to have this conversation, right? So have a clear goal that you will express to the other individual about why you want to have this conversation and what you want the outcome to be, right? It might not be that, but as long as you have a clear goal on what you're going in, if emotions run high, or if there is, you feel like fighting or flighting, you can always take a deep breath and come back to that goal to realign yourself to continue in the conversation. I think one thing that we learned about setting this stage piece is that you should think about what you're going to say before you say it. So create yourself a script, maybe practice with someone else, because the goal isn't for you just to get your ideas out, which that's me. That was my previous life, right? I'm just going to spout out all my ideas to everyone that will listen. Who cares what they think afterwards? But what these really conversations are about is to strengthen the relationship, right? So I have to care about what the other person is thinking, is feeling, how they feel in this conversation. So I don't want them to freeze. I don't want them to fight. I want them to be receptive to the conversation, and I want to be open. So I need to practice that script, and I need to know why I'm having that conversation, so that then I can bring myself back to that. If things start to get tense, bring myself back to this moment of grounding, so that I am as open as I possibly can for the other person, to hear them, to hear their side of the story. So then maybe potentially we can come to an understanding together, right? It's also important to know when you're going to have the conversation. So it shouldn't just be, if you're having a very difficult conversation about race, it shouldn't just be like, hey, why don't you just come on over here for a minute? We just have a few seconds, right? It should be something that you've planned out, that's in a space that's quiet, that's not going to have a lot of interruptions, right? So that then you both can listen to one another and have that back and forth dialogue. In a lot of the readings that we read, they encouraged the conversationalist to ask permission to have that conversation. I really would love to have this conversation with you. Are you okay with us having this conversation? So that that once the conversation started, the other person is okay having this difficult conversation, and knowing that both of you are getting there. So they gave an example Like, I really care about you. I really value our relationship. This is something that's concerning to me about what you've said, or, what we've said together. Can we talk about it in this way? So that would be one way that you could ask permission. And when you're setting that stage, be okay if the person is not ready to have the conversation, right? So keep your emotion in check. That's where those self-care strategies and the self-assessment come in handy, right? Be okay if the person is not ready to have that conversation, and maybe come back to them. And don't be like, oh, I hate them, they're the worst, to have that conversation, right? Thinking about how you can set the stage better, and then next time around to maybe make it more open for them to hear you, right? And then we finally get to the conversation. We've done it a lot already.
Right. So having the conversation. And so as Jackie was talking, I was thinking, right, we're talking about having an intentional conversation with someone. But I also think that, of course, you're going to have moments in a classroom or even in a conversation that happen, spontaneously, or something gets said in the moment. So I do think, though, everything we're talking about will absolutely help you prepare for that, or think about how you might want to manage that. And we're also talking about having an intentional conversation around race in certain situations, and we're going to have some thought scenarios later. But start by seeking to understand the other person's perspective. And this is a shout out to Melanie and Kelly from our faculty learning community on building an equity-minded campus. They did a presentation on the National Commission to Address Racism in Nursing, came up with these 10 steps. And the first step is become a story catcher. So again, back to that idea of really pay attention to and listen deeply to the other person's story, right? I in some of my learnings, right, I heard her name is Lisa Respers France. She's an African-American senior writer for CNN. And I love what she said. She goes, we don't listen, we just wait to talk. Right. So don't just sit there and nod as the person's talking and wait for you to put your 2 cents in. We are asking, of ourselves, to really, listen deeply to the other person's story, and to ask questions, and to be curious. What made you say that? Help me understand your perspective. Let me understand your position. Right. So, right, working hard at listening and understanding, practicing mindfulness. This is where that can come in handy again. Reflect back what you heard the other person say. That's always, we know that most of us are aware of that technique, right? Like, then they can correct you, right? If you reflect back what they say, they could say, that's not what I'm saying, right? And they can correct you. Be open, right? Be open, be transparent, be curious with that, and be compassionate, right, towards them and towards yourself when you're having the conversation. And towards the end, talking about the future and how to do things differently, and then have an action plan if it feels appropriate at that point, to think about how you might move, what could possibly change. I will say, right, again, through all of our readings, one thing came out loud and clear: we're not going to change anybody, right? We are only responsible for ourselves, and that's where, again, this whole idea of you being the change agent, right? Be the change you want to see in the world, right? That's who we want to be. And to know I can't change this other person, but I can try to understand their perspective and work deeply at that. And I think that'll help me be able to think about what might be next steps based on me deeply listening to who they are and how they are in the world. And then thinking about how we want to move forward from there. All right.
Yeah, so Sheila mentioned many of these.
Oh, sorry, Jackie.
No, that's okay. It's perfect, right? Because I think
I forgot.
During a conversation that we want to have, we've been transparent about the conversation. This is how we feel. I think even though we want to have that conversation, someone else might not want to, or someone might not be as open or as curious about our perspective. So I think providing that safe space, even though it's not going to be the safest space, right? But providing an open space, I think, in a listening space, in a non-judgmental space, to have a conversation may be better than having your emotions rise and, yelling at the person. Like, how can you possibly think that I'm going to punch you in the throat? I know I say that sometimes when I talk to people, I'm like, that's dumb, I'm going to punch you in the throat. But if I want someone to change their mind, punching them in the throat isn't going to help, right? It's going to just make them more mad and closed off at that. So I don't really mean I'm going to punch people in the throat. I'm not that aggressive. but I think that falls in line with giving yourself grace in the conversation and giving the other person grace and compassion, right? So if we really want to make change and we want to uncover these hard conversations, own it. Be like, yes, this is super uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable for me to have to talk about this, but I feel like I have to. And here are the reasons why. And I want to know what you feel about this. And have you thought about this? And, ask questions, listen, don't just expect the answer. And I think the biggest thing is if your emotions increase or their emotions increase, it's okay to take a break and come back, right? We all know that nobody learns anything once they're all angry, right? If I know that on any of your friends or your spouses have said, you just need to calm down. That never works, right? It never works when someone says you just need to calm down. You're like, you're right. I do need to calm down. That's not how it works in real life, right? So it's okay to say like, oh, I feel like both of us are, we're feeling right now. Maybe it might be best for us to take a break, process our feelings, and then come back when we can talk when we're a little less feely, right? And this brings us right into a story that I want to share. So a real life example. Last year, I was in a class with my graduate students, and we were talking about autism spectrum disorder and race. And we were talking about assessments, and the results of general assessments suggest that it takes, children that are more diverse, it takes them longer to be assessed, longer them to get a diagnosis, longer for them to get services. And one of my graduate students said, well, that doesn't really matter. It's probably because they just have bad families, and said something about general bias for diverse populations. And I did not handle it well, everyone, at all. I did fight. I got very angry. I ended up yelling at the entire class, screaming that I was actually raising my voice. Someone came in to say like, are you okay? And at that point I was not okay. I let my emotions get the better of me. I yelled at the class. I told them it was inappropriate, that what they were saying, right? I called this student out, which is, in that moment, probably not the best thing to do. I left the class feeling really sad, and I felt like I didn't provide a space where we could talk about, what people's biases were, why they had thought that, why they might have said that. And I brought it to our learning community, and I was so sad about it. And the following week I went back to class and I apologized. I apologized to the class, to all the students in the class, because I reacted, right? So that wasn't the way to react to something like that with someone, in power. Right? I should have been more open, more empathetic, more caring. I shouldn't have called that student out right in the middle of class. That was very inappropriate. And so we as a class moved forward. I apologized. Here's what I should have done. Then I practiced with them and said, this is what I should have done last week. I'm sorry that I wasn't there yet. I'm still working on how to respond to these really hard and critical conversations myself. Then we did an activity where we talked about race as a group, and we talked about where our positions were from. And I did feel a lot better after that. And I can say that that was one of the things on my student evaluations that people said, oh, we recognize, we were proud that she, owned up to her mistake. And then we could move forward. So I just wanted to share a really hard example for me, so that you know that you're not alone, right? If you yell at your students in class, it's not okay, but people have done it. And I have done it. And there are ways that you can come back from that in the classroom. And I think it did make the class stronger and better, and we all had different perspectives, but we came together that following week and after that with a newfound respect for one another.
All right, so I think this might be right one of our last steps, right? This the follow-up to the conversation, right? So what happens after the conversation, right? And this idea of remember, it's a process that we get to keep on learning. It's not going to be unlikely a one-off conversation where you just have it once and everything's hunky-dory, right? It's most likely going to be a process. And it's important to go back in and check in with that person. Like what Jackie did with her class, she went back in and they processed that. So right, coming back and doing that, continue to make action plans and to find your way through. And right, it's a continuing relationship and not just a one-off, right? That we're all in a relationship here with each other. We're specifically talking about this community, right? And we are in relationships with one another, with our students and with our peers and the administration, right? And so to remember that we are in relationship and we want to foster and that growth and that development. And another quote I wanted to put up here. I actually heard this quote early this morning. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but I heard it on a podcast this morning. James Baldwin, maybe someone can find the quote for me, but he said something like, if we want to change something, we need to face it, right? And for me, that really resonated, right? I do want to change who I am as a white woman in this world and how I face race and how I face these difficult conversations. And the way to do that is I gotta face it, and I gotta participate in the conversations, and I have to be present versus, right. The silent good people not doing anything, right? John Lewis, get up to good trouble. We need to get into good trouble. So that really resonates with me.
Okay, so here's what we, Sheila and I envisioned are the next steps for Regis, really, right? I think we love to create a community-wide agreement as a college to engage in difficult conversations around race. Have that be something that everyone agrees is important. We may even sign something, right? Agree that this is something that we need to do and is important for our students, for our faculty and staff, for for our friends, for our family. And we urge people to continue to have difficult conversations about race, even though it's uncomfortable, even though you might cry, right? Even though you might yell at someone or punch them in the throat. Just kidding. And it's going to be important when you do that to create your community. So know who you can go to for support and guidance. I know that after that horrible incident in the classroom, I really needed our faculty learning community to help me process and recognize what I was like, I can't go back in class. I should just quit my job. I can't go back after I've yelled at them so bad. To help process and move forward. We would urge everyone to consult with the Center for Inclusive Excellence. They're a really awesome resource. It's growing bigger every day, Audrey. Love it. Keep learning. Like listen to your podcasts, read books, read articles, share with your students the things that you are learning, share with your friends and your colleagues. Make sure that you're nurturing yourself, right? Self-care, make sure that you are in a good place to have these conversations, right? We all know if we're stressed, we're not feeling great, we're anxious, we're more likely to be defensive, to yell at people, to not really be present and listen. And we would love it if everyone spent time to reflect on how to create this equity-mindedness, both across campus and within the classroom, and how each one of us can do our part to make this a place that people want to go to because they feel supported to have these conversations.
And I would just add, with the community-wide agreement, if somehow we can make that happen as a Regis community, then that's something, if we all sign that, we can actually point to it. Jackie, remember we signed that agreement. So in the spirit of that agreement, I have a difficult conversation I need to talk to you about, right? That we can actually point to that. Like we agreed that we would do this. And so in the spirit of that, I'd like to talk to you, right? You can help us open the conversation.
Okay, so here's our thought scenario. Perfect time. We have about 15 minutes.
Oh, good.
So
the first one I actually stole from a video that I watched. It was actually, but it was relating more to like the business world, but of course it can apply anywhere. So you, a white professor, are in a faculty meeting and notice that a colleague, also white, will often interrupt junior colleagues of color, but does not seem to do so with her white peers. How might you approach your colleague? And I don't know, if, Jackie, were we thinking people would put in the chat or just talk? And what do we think?
You do you, however you feel most
Yeah,
comfortable
yeah.
sharing.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
You can talk out loud. You can write it in the chat. We've got a chatter now. Oh, Audrey's gonna stop recording so that then this part's